He is certified as a professional performance coach, as well as an experienced leadership consultant, speaker, and cat lover. Paul is currently coaching the global leaders and teams at Twitter, Electronic Arts, Apple, Walmart, SAP, plus several other exceptional organizations. And he is very honored to be here today to help you find your voice as a leader. A warm welcome for Paul Larsen.
Thank you, Scott. What an honor to be here today. And what an honor to close this out. I'm just looking at all the faces out there, and it is such an honor to serve you. And it's such an honor to have watched all my esteemed colleagues before. So today we're going to talk about finding your voice as a leader. With that said, I'd like everyone to please stand up. Now what I would like you to say is, I have a voice. I have a voice. I have a voice. I found my voice. I found my voice. I found my voice. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Have a seat. My work is now done. You have found your voice. The other title to this presentation is the 5 hashtags you need to create your leadership brand. So a lot of the companies that I work at as an executive coach, a leadership consultant, they work in hashtags. Do you all know what hashtags are? There's those little things we put on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Hashtag this, hashtag that, hashtag Paul is good looking, hashtag Paul's a great speaker, hashtag. So we operate in such a hashtag world. But I have found it very useful to find your voice as a leader, to develop your leadership brand, to develop your leadership legacy, is to actually hashtag it. And that's what I do with a lot of my clients. So, what is finding your voice? And I'm going to just give you a really kind of quick overview this afternoon, because I really want to get you into some activities later on. What does that mean, later on, Paul? I think we're supposed to get out of here around 5 o'clock or so. What do you mean later on? What do you mean later on? I've got some fun stuff for you that you can take with you from today's activity, from today's engagement. But finding your voice is discovering your values. What's important to you as a leader? And how do you know that? Do you know how many leaders I ask, what do you value? And they can't answer that. They look at me quizzically like, I don't know. I don't know what that is. I don't know what I value. Oh, I know. My organizational values are honesty and teamwork and empathy. Not so much the organizational values. What do you value? Secondly, what are your outcomes as a leader? What's that vision that you create as a leader? How do you know where you're going to be going as a leader? And how do you get people to follow you as a leader? Some of my leaders that I work with, one of my leaders I'm working with right now is a very senior leader at a retail chain in Arkansas, which is a state in America. And when I asked him, I said to him, how do you get people to follow you? And he says, because they report to me. They have to follow me. So because they report to me, they have to follow me. And I thought, oh, we have a lot of work to do here. I don't know if 6 months is going to be long enough time. The second piece around that is influence. Once you create your vision, how do you get people to influence, how do you influence people to your vision? We call it enrolling. How do you enroll your team, your tribe, your community, your organization to your vision? And the third or the fourth piece of finding your voice is sometimes the hardest. It's demonstrating your courage. It's stepping out of your comfort zone. It's taking a stand as a leader to say, I stand for this. Or sometimes as a leader, I stand alone. That's demonstrating your courage. How courageous are you as a leader? Or are you a leader that kind of hides in the shadows or hides behind other leaders? You've got another leader at work and the other leaders just kind of follow behind. That's not being a leader. That has nothing to do with leadership. You're not being courageous that way. And the very last piece of finding your voice is crafting your overall expression. Who are you? What do you represent? What is your brand? What is your legacy? When I ask leaders, what do you stand for? What's your legacy? What's the legacy you're leaving as a leader? What's the impact you have? Many of them look at me and think, I've never thought of that before. That's a great question. It's a question every leader should ask. What is your legacy? Because folks, let me tell you something. If you don't author your own legacy, it's being authored by somebody else. And nobody else should ghostwrite your legacy. You should be the author of your leadership. You should be the author of your legacy. You should be the author of your brand. Don't let somebody else ghostwrite that for you. So, one of the companies I work at is Twitter. And a lot of you might know Twitter. It's a social media organization based in San Francisco. And I do a lot of group coaching there. I do coaching with a lot of the leaders. And yes, we do get on the ground sometimes and put our heads together like that and start screaming. That is what we look like when we're on the ground. And some of the work I work with there, and some of the work I work with those leaders is, how do they find their voice? And many times at Twitter, I got a message the other day from one of the executives there who sponsors me, the chief learning officer. And she said, Paul, she's like, every time we put you in front of some leaders to coach, along with other coaches, they tend to select you a lot. You have something that they resonate with. They want to find their voice. And they also say, Paul, he reminds me of my father. He's full of wisdom. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm being reminded as their father, because at Twitter, many of the folks are millennials in terms of leadership. So finding their voice is not necessarily something we've worked on before. And it all goes back to when I found my voice. So as Scott said, and so eloquently in the introduction, I've had over 30 years experience in the corporate world. As such as a lot of you have had a lot of experience. I talked to some of you at lunch and on breaks. And it doesn't matter what experience you have or how long that experience is, it's what you do with it that really, really, really counts. It's like anything else in life. It's what you do with that experience. So I've had over 30 years, and I've made every mistake there is to make as a manager. Have I made employees cry? Yep, check that box. Have I hired the wrong people? Yep, check that box. Have I fired people in a public restaurant? Yep, check that box. By the way, don't do that. That's not a good practice at all. I have made every mistake there is to make, and I've had some incredible successes. But what difference does all of that make if I can't get my message out, if I don't know who I am as a leader? So, just a few years ago, I was sitting on a wooden bench just like this. I was inside a big building, actually very similar to this. Sun was streaming down. Lots of people in the room. It was kind of stuffy. It was kind of a warm June day. And I was sitting there and I was pretty melancholy. And I'm a pretty kind of glass half full kind of guy. But I was pretty melancholy. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening to people talk over and over in the microphone. because it was the memorial service of my sister. And my sister meant the world to me. My sister was my BFF. Hashtag BFF. She had a wonderful, wonderful life. She was a wonderful, wonderful woman. And I'm sitting at her memorial service in the church, just like this. And everyone was getting up and talking about what a wonderful person she was, and what she meant to them in their life, and the difference she made, and things that they remembered way back when they were growing up with her, or maybe when they were working with her, or maybe when they were going to church with her. And all these things were coming out in this service. And I was just sitting there like taking it all in. And it almost was so overwhelming. And then it happened. In that moment, I just said, what are they going to say about me? What are they going to say about me? My sister had such a wonderful life. She had such a wonderful legacy. She had such impact. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, what are they going to say about me? Oh, Paul was a great HR leader. Yep. He helped me with my compensation plans. Yep. He helped me restructure my organization. He got us our reports on time. He hired 20 people for my department. Wow. All very, very important things, right? But not necessarily what I wanted to be known for. I wanted to have an impact in my life and the lives of others that went beyond a spreadsheet, that went beyond an HR report, that went beyond just the normal day-to-day operations. So in that moment, the gift from my sister was, Paul, life is too short. You need to find your voice, and you need to figure out what that is, and you need to go do it. So with a very clear purpose and a very clear deliberation, I took the steps necessary to do what I am doing now in my life, which is coaching others to find their voice. And that's the experience I have. And that's what I bring to the organizations I'm at. So why do you choose to lead? It's one of the first questions I ask leaders. Why do you choose to lead? Because if you can answer that, and I don't mean just answer that spontaneously, I mean answer that with a deep reflection. Why do you choose to lead? When I say answer spontaneously, normally when I ask a leader that I'm either working with or that I might start working with, they answer right away. Oh, well, I choose to lead because X, Y, Z. I choose to lead because, I want to make a difference. Or I choose to lead because I want to make more money. Or I choose to lead because I want to create more added value for the organization. I look at all those reasons and I go, I want you to take 24 to 48 hours and go back and answer that question deeper. I don't want your organizational answer. I want why you choose to lead. Because buried in that question, as simple as that is the values that represent who you are as a leader. Anybody ever worked in an organization and you had your value block, that red block, and you're trying to stick it into a round hole? The incongruencies of values in an organization. We talk a lot about disengagement in organizations. We talk a lot about disengagement in organizations. One of the main reasons people are disengaged is not because the organization doesn't do enough. It's because the values are incongruent. The values I have as a person don't match the values of the organization. But we don't always recognize that because it's a good job. I have to keep the job. I have to make money. I have to feed my family. I have to put my kids through college, to do all those things. And that's all well and true. But that's why knowing your values is so, so critical. Because you want to be at an organization, you want to be in a position that is going to be in alignment with those values, as some of our earlier speakers mentioned as well. So here's the first hashtag, discover my values. Discover who you are. Discover what is important to you as a leader. And when I'm talking about leader, I'm not just talking about the position you have or the title. We're so far beyond that. There are so many eloquent authors out there the Mark Sanborns and the late Stephen Covey who talk about you don't need a position to be a leader. You don't need a title to be a leader. We're so far beyond that. It's what you do in your life in terms of leadership. Our next is outcomes. Where are we going? Many times I ask leaders, what's your vision? What are the outcomes you're establishing for yourself, for your team, for your organization? Many times they relate back to me the organization's vision. It's like, no. That's well and good. Absolutely, you need to understand where the organization's going. What's your vision? What are your outcomes that you want? What's that purpose you have? Again, simple question. Where are we going? Well, I might go across the street, I might go over there. No, it's a much deeper question. Where are we going as a leader? What is your vision? Second hashtag, build my vision. Build my vision. What I work on with leaders, once they establish their values, is to then build their vision. Many leaders jump right to vision building without knowing what their values are. And then wonder, when they're crafting their vision, why it's not in alignment, why they're disengaged. Is because they didn't discover their values first. Influence. Why should you follow me? I made that comment earlier. Why should you follow me as a leader? Not because I have the title, not because you're a member of my team, not because I'm the CTO, the CIO, the CMO, the COO, the CLO, the CEO, any of those C things, right? Why should you follow me? You should follow me because I know what I represent. I know what my values are. You should follow me because I've crafted a vision that is in alignment with my values. You should follow me because I will take you there. We will go there together, and we will learn together. That's why you should follow me. The art of influence. That's the art part of leadership. We have the science part, and then we have the art part. That's the art. Hashtag enroll my tribe. Enroll my tribe. How do you get people to follow you? You know, it's not about just liking on Facebook or all the followers on Twitter. We've become such a checklist kind of mentality in today's world. It's the numbers, how popular we are. And we have all these ways to connect, but we're not doing a lot of connecting. We're connecting up here, but we're not doing a lot of deep connecting. How do you enroll your tribe? How do you actually influence those people, your team members, your organization, or your community? The fourth piece of finding your voice, once we've established the values and the outcomes and the influence, is demonstrating your courage, stepping out of your comfort zone. It is so easy to stay in our comfort zone, isn't it? Isn't it just so easy to kind of stay where we are, right? What do I stand for as a leader? What courage do I have to stand for? What is that courageous thing that I want to say, but I've never said? Because I just don't know. I don't know if I should speak up or not. I can't tell you how many leaders I work with in organizations at senior levels who don't want to speak up. They want to let somebody else speak up for them. Wow, why? Where does that happen to you in your life? Where you don't speak up and you think that you should? What's that courage? What's that stepping out of that comfort zone look like to you? Are you like this? Or are you like this? This or this? Same bird. This is the same eagle. I was at an eagle sanctuary in Alaska, and they had done some work on this beautiful eagle. And this is the same eagle when it had been injured. So, are you hiding behind the x-rays? Are you hiding behind something? Or are you stepping out and having that confidence and assertiveness that you need as a leader? Hashtag is burst my bubble. I always ask my leader, what bubbles have you burst this week, this month, this year? We all live in bubbles. Bubbles keep us comfortable. Bubbles let us travel around, right? Bubbles let us just kind of float around and drift a little bit. How many times do you have to burst your bubble? And our very last piece is crafting that expression, crafting that brand of who you are. What is my leadership brand?
Is it a new brand? Or is it a stale brand? How long is that shelf life? Do you have an expiration date? What is your leadership brand? What would people say about you as a leader? What would that brand be as a leader? Hashtag create my brand. How did you stand out? It may not always be what you wear. It may not be anything. It could be what you represent. When I work with leaders through the Find Your Voice model, the values, the outcomes, the influence, the courage, they come to a point where they understand what their brand is. They know what they stand for. And they stand up for that. Great quote. Don't become a wandering